Bright suns and rising moons, fellow droids. Welcome to Not the Droids podcast. I'm Danny.
And I'm Mayuri, and today we are talking about Rogue One. So we've seen Andor season 1 and 2. We're finishing off this storyline with Rogue One. Um, this one came out a while ago. When did it come out?
This one released on December 16th, 2016. So we're at
Oh, it's
9
almost
years.
it's
It's almost 10 years.
yeah.
Next year will be 10 years. And
Oh, that's wild.
I think the director said for the 10th anniversary, he was doing a cut together of Andor and Rogue One
Oh
as
my
a
God,
movie
that would be
release.
fab.
So we'll probably be there.
Well, so it's funny because like I on TikTok, some people have been calling this the Andor, like the Cassian trilogy, if you
Hmm.
really think about it. Because like having watched Andor, watching Rogue One, you're more attuned to Cassian than Jin.
Yes.
So like I
Yes.
watched Rogue One is probably my favorite movie, and I saw it for the first time during the pandemic. Oh God, I always forget to do those. And so I saw it like 5 years ago for the first time, only the one time through.
Yeah.
And so I feel like when I watched it then, I was just like so into Jin Urso's story. But this time while I'm watching it, and I was like, this is why Cassian is the way that he is.
Mhm.
And like even the Saul Guerrera stuff, I was just
Literally the first minute in, I went, "Hey, Mayuri, here's your answer."
I know, but he was so annoying throughout Andor. And I get like this was the reason. I forgot that he died so soon
Well,
into
it is,
the
but it's also like they needed to set up that he was like part of the fanatic group.
yeah, and then like that's why he was on the fringe and people didn't really like they had to like barter to get in front
Yeah.
of him. But yes, it tied the story in well. It was still just very irritating throughout Andor season 2, but like I said, I was like more attuned to Cassian this time, and that I kind of agree with people being like, this is the Andor trilogy,
Yeah.
if you count season 1, season 2, and then the movie. Because it is a full story arc, and it's so cool to watch it
Yeah.
this time. I was like so much more because I remember the first time I watched it, like it was cool. I didn't I watched Star Wars in like the movies in chronological order. So I actually started with Rogue One and I really had no context for most things in this movie. And so
Whereas now you have more than enough context because of
I was just
everything.
like, yeah, these are all the rebellion people. They suck. Um so that's why it was like interesting now that I've seen so much, especially the Andor, watching it with that knowledge was very different than the first time I saw it.
Mhm.
So, um, I do want to note that what's his face, the Empire guy with the cape, I always forget his name. Um, Nimic? No, I don't know. Um, his cape was so much better in the Andor shows, and I was just like, they made it so much cleaner. And I think I've decided on if I ever do a Star Wars
Is it Krennic?
cosplay. Krennic, yes.
Orson
I
Krennic?
I think I want to do one of the cape cosplays, so either a Jedi from Acolyte or or Krennic.
It's also like it was like watching it. There's like people I forgot that were in this. I was like, "Oh, hey, Mads Mikkelsen just
Yeah,
showing
I
up."
forgot that Mads Mikkelsen was like what's his face? Jensen?
No,
Urso?
Galen.
Galen. Urso. But I mean he was so good in this. I
And like
love
I
Mads.
shouldn't have forgotten this. He was at Star Wars Celebration. Like,
It's like why was he here? No, he's just so good in
well, he's
this.
a no, he's sorry, he is just in Rogue One. Is his brother in Star Wars? His brother's in Star Wars. His brother's in Ahsoka.
Oh, that's what
Um,
you're thinking of.
well, because he plays Thrawn.
Oh.
which is big Star Wars deal.
Yeah, I did see Mandalorian, so I know.
Yeah.
Um, but no, so I mean if we want to kind of I don't know if we want to go like character like
This is our
I
first movie.
yeah,
Stemming right off of a show. I don't think we need to like really recap the movie, but
no.
like maybe let's just talk about what we liked about it and like just general movie. Like let's just hit the movie.
Yeah, I K2 I honestly, there were so many one-line zingers in this movie from lots of characters. Like, especially K2, but from lots of characters, it was funny. Um, my favorite is right off the jump when Jin was trying to escape the transport after they tried to rescue her,
Yeah.
and he just like clotheslined her essentially
Yep.
and was like, "This is a rescue.
Yeah.
You are being rescued."
Yeah.
And I was just like, every time he did anything, like even just like I am being nice to you, Cassian told me to.
Yeah.
Like
Or
it's
like when
just
he's like, I told you to stay back at the ship. He's like, I was bored. He's like, I'm going back now.
I'll go back now. But that's where it's just like I forgot how funny. And it's like you hear and see Alan Tudyk in this,
Oh,
right? Like
I see him in everything.
everything. It's I love Alan Tudyk so much and he does such a good job with this character. Uh and I don't know. It also having watched Andor now you see like the origins of K2 and all of that. And so like seeing his death scene hit so much harder, right? Cuz like to be honest seeing all the death like the whole movie, like the end of the movie,
Well,
I
it's
feel
like
like
it's also like so shocking because right at the gate you see Andor off someone
oh my
that's
god.
like
That was wild. But again, I remember the first time I think I watched that, I was horrified. I was like, "Isn't this a friend? Like he was meeting up with them, like to get information, and he just
yeah.
killed him." And now having seen Andor and knowing the whole like Luthen of it all, you're like, I am not surprised that he did that. That guy was a liability. He was like ranting and raving like a
He would
lunatic
have
Louis
given them up
admitted.
in a second had he
Yeah,
been
he would
caught.
have given them up. And so it's like he had to do that to survive. Um I I also had like more appreciation for Mon Mothma in this movie.
Hmm.
Like you could see that she wanted to help. Like she is there and like she's held back by the rest of the rebellion,
And we
which
see her look has now carried through.
oh yes.
So like her look is now connected from last set of episodes to this one.
Yeah.
So, because like
Um
when it happened, I was just like, oh my God, it was like a little bit of a shock to see like the switch over. And I'm like, oh, right. That's why they
that's why
needed to
they
get her
did
where
it
she
because that
is.
was her look in this movie.
Yeah.
Um But yeah, so it was kind of, and I don't think I really quite realized that the guy that was in Arcana 5 with Cassian
Mhm.
was one of the like background actors. Like they from Rogue One.
Yeah.
Like one of the guys that ends up going to the planet with him
Yeah.
is the guy who joined the rebellion, who is the guy that ended up escaping the prison with Cassian. And like I was like, oh, so they like followed that character through to be like, yo, this guy has been a real one for a long
Yeah.
time. For a long, long time. So that's where it's just kind of like, I don't know. I This movie is still my favorite, I guess, I would say.
Right now, I don't have anything to compare it to because we haven't watched the other movies. So
Yes,
I'm
we haven't
picking this up.
officially watched the other movies, but um I really like with the context of Andor really liked this movie even
Our
more.
special guest who needs to go take a walk now. Go on. You're doing too much. Go on,
He
bud.
just wants to be on the podcast
He's our mascot, right? Uh,
unofficially.
We also see right at the start of this, well, not the start, but in the beginning of this, where we get our rebellions are built on hope.
I know, again, that line carries through all the way to the end, right? All the way, because they even carried it through with the, because this movie came out after, I think it was after what, the actress that played Leia passed away.
She died 11 days after this movie released.
Oh wow. But that's why it like carried all the way through to the very end of the movie when people are like, what is that?
Yeah.
And then she goes, hope. And then I was like, I literally banged my hands down and I was like, a new hope, a new hope. Isn't that the name of the movie? I I guess it like carries so much weight because you see it go down the line, like, and when Cassian said it to Jin, and then Jin said
While
it to
Carrie
the
Fisher
council.
didn't actually perform Rogue
Oh,
Princess Leia scene, the actress gave the moment her blessing. The final shot of Rogue One features Princess Leia being handed the Death Star plans obtained by the rebels, with Norwegian actress Ingvild Delia hired to play the role
Charlie is
with a brief
stand-in.
cameo. Carrie Fisher gave her blessing.
Yeah. I mean, it like really truly the last few minutes of the movie like tied it in so deeply
Yes.
to the movie. Um and I guess that's why I like it because like this whole storyline from the beginning, like you know how it ended, and so it's not a surprise, but it's still like fun, or it's still like very interesting to see the journey of how they got there. Um and like realistically, all the characters we were introduced to, I think Mon Mothma is really the only one
Mm-hmm.
that is like currently making its way forward. Like we don't know, and we, like Bix and um, what's the shop girl's name? I forgot it.
Leia.
Yeah, Clea. But like you're the assumption is Bix is safe with the kid, and Clea is also in Rebel intelligence somewhere. Right?
Yeah.
Because like they introduce Andor, like Captain Andor, Rebel intelligence, so like he must be their best spy. Um,
It's so interesting that they credit James Earl Jones and the guy who played like Vader's personification as Anakin Skywalker.
oh, they did.
That's how it on the interwebs. I don't know how it's labeled in the actual movie listing, but I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Because like
Yeah,
he definitely showed up as Darth Vader, not
Vader,
as Anakin.
Anakin. Yeah. No, so and I was also thinking about timeline, right? Because they took that in account. So like the argument that Jin and Saul had it was that when she was 16, he abandoned her, right?
Yeah.
Like he gave her whatever she like what she needed to survive and then just left her.
Yeah.
Which makes sense why nobody knows that he raised her
Yeah.
in the Andor situation because I would assume she's in her early 20s in this because that's the only thing that would make sense to me timeline wise.
I think so, because at one point they said like the amount of years that had passed.
Yeah, so
She's
that's
21 years old
yeah, so
in Rogue One.
it's been 5 years, which makes it exactly like the right timeline for Andor.
Yeah.
Um, like why we didn't run into her during
Yeah.
Andor,
And I
essentially.
think it would be a discredit to have run into her sooner.
Yeah, I'm glad that they didn't do anything like
She
that.
also, like, we also learned from the start, she's going by a different name. She's not even going
Yeah,
by her real name.
yes.
So,
Well, she can't. So
oh, yeah. And it's just like that first moment where we see Cassian, like, it hits harder because, like, we know they've just found out about Galen Erso, and they find the guy, and, like, how he responds, he's like, Galen? Galen Erso.
I know that's why it's just like it lends so much more weight to those like
Yeah.
little weird things
Because
where
watching
you're
that without Andor as context, you're like, okay, so it's some
okay.
guy they know about. But here you're like, oh no, they just like heard about this from Clea, but they're still like don't have all the information.
Yeah. And that's where it's just like they did such a good job of like picking those like weird little moments in the movie and like
Yeah.
expanding on it, right?
Yeah.
Like
Well, that's not a weird
um
little moment. That's a
no,
straight
it's
up
not
the
not
story.
like a
That's literally the storyline.
not a weird little moment. I mean just like pockets of moments where they
Yeah.
can expand the storyline, right? So
Yeah.
like it knowing that he got that message from Clea and he had to fight with the council to even take it seriously
Yeah.
gives it so much more weight when he hears the name
Mm-hmm.
said to him and then when he's just like Galen and he's just like I know that name. You
Yeah.
just learned that name. And then it's just like it also like with his history with the rebellion and Luthen, I feel like it gives so much more weight to like the moment where he's supposed to kill Galen. Like he's
Mm-hmm.
there with this, which also K2 ratted that man out so hard.
Yeah.
His rifle was in the sniper configuration. Like, thanks, K2.
Yeah.
Thanks. That was not helpful for anything.
No.
Like, and then when that's the line. My favorite line in the whole movie is when he turns around. He's like, "What are they doing? If Cassian comes back, I'm leaving them behind." That's why I was just like, it was so funny. But like, I don't know. And it also like gave a little bit more context to like why Cassian essentially ignores the Jedi this whole
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah.
Because like you know that he doesn't believe in the Jedi at all.
No.
Um and he doesn't take anything that Jedi says seriously, even though like he was pretty bomb. His cane that turned into like a whole thing, I was like, yeah, dude. So that's where I was just like, I don't know. Um, I don't know that I have like favorite. This whole movie was so good. I think that Andor itself made this movie even better.
Yes, I agree.
Um, and that's because they were so good at knowing what to expand upon. Like
Well,
I
like it also, I think like part of it is also is like if you watch this without the Andor background, like Cassian's just a side character. And
that's why
you're not
it's like
as
you're like,
invested in
who's
him. You're
this
like,
guy?
okay, this guy came out of nowhere. You don't like the Jedi. Like, this is Star Wars. You should like Jedi. Like, what's wrong with you? You know what I mean? But then you
Yeah.
see this and you're like, okay,
Oh, but that's why it's just like Cassian before was like some dude. And also like if honestly in the context of this movie like it was cool to see the characters but like they didn't live past this movie.
no.
Um and so like they were kind of one and done to me. So I was like, yeah, whatever. I never thought about their story. We got Jin's full story in this movie.
Yeah.
But
Like the
Cassian
only one that really lives past this movie,
is Mon Mothma.
Mon Mothma, and mentions of Bail Organa.
Well, we saw Bill.
We do, but like we see him after this movie.
Oh, because he makes this like the quirky thing where he's like, I would trust her with my life because he was talking about Leia sending someone to get the
Well, because now we
plans.
have the
So
Obi-Wans here, so you see Bail again. So like
yeah.
Mon Mothma, you see a lot more, but you do see like of the characters that like essentially that we will see again, these are the ones that we see. Obviously, like Darth
And
Vader.
so that's why it's like when I first saw it, I didn't think anything of Cassian. I was just like, he's
Yeah.
just this like dick.
And if you didn't
Like,
watch the cartoons, Mon Mothma, you're like, okay,
no,
she's
I
gone.
don't know who she was either. I honestly didn't even remember her being in this movie. That's how much like I didn't care. I
Yeah.
really only remembered K2, Cassian, and Jin. Everybody else was just
Yeah.
like a whatever to me. Whereas this time watching it, like I could care less about Jin. I was just like,
Poor
girl,
Jin.
take your daddy issues elsewhere. Um, no, it was even more sad too, because like we've seen people like defect from the Empire. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I felt kind of like hit harder by the rebel pilot's story
Hmm.
who like defected, brought the message, was tortured by Saul. I love how Saul was like the weird octopusy thing will get the truth from you, but you might go crazy.
Yeah.
That's my bad. But at least we know you're telling the truth.
Yeah.
Um,
At least she'll die with a killer conscience. Like,
yeah. Um, and so that's why, and it gives like more credence. So like we also learn why Cassian was so much of a dick when she was like, "Well, the message, I heard the message," and he's like, "Yeah, sure, no
hmm
one's gonna believe that."
yeah,
Like, so I don't know. It was every moment hit harder in
yeah.
this movie. I mean, you've seen this before. Like, what was really things that stood out to you?
I think it's just like the characters, like we've been saying, is just like really paying attention and caring about who Cassian is now versus him just being like a one-shot movie character. Because sometimes, like when it's only one movie, you're like, and then they die, so you're like, well, I'm not gonna get anything else out of this character.
So
Like,
you don't not like emotionally
it's like this
invested in
came out,
them.
and you're like, there's no emotional investment because you know you can't see this character again.
Yeah,
Little did we know prequels coming, like
exactly.
10 years later almost.
I know, seriously. But that's
So
why
it was
I'm
a
just
little like
like,
disorienting seeing Diego Luna so
oh,
young.
so much younger. All of them so much younger. Even the Empire guy. I forget their names. They're all weird. Um, but no. So I also it it deepened like so one of the last lessons we got from Andor is that everyone from the Empire met a very fitting end in the system that they like of their own like a trap of their own making,
Yeah.
right? Like um I still Cyril could have gotten away, but he saw Andor and was like, that guy. And essentially that's what happened to everybody, right? Like even the Death Star killed what's his face, the one who built it, who like did all of this terrible stuff just to get it built.
hmm
And you're just kind of like, I will say though, I remember thinking that the Kyber crystal that Jin had was gonna do more, but it was still disappointing when I was watching it, and I was like, oh, it's just like a memento. Still, um, I know it's fine, but it is. I remember watching it for the first time and being like, there's like no real Jedi in this. There's no lightsaber, like other than the blind Jedi who was too good to be true most of the time. I was like, I don't really feel that. But like again, watching Andor, I'm just like, I'm glad there wasn't any Jedi as this
Yeah.
part of this process. Because now they're just like, now we should engage the Jedi because we need their help. Um, I guess the destruction of Jeddah hit more too,
Yeah.
because like I couldn't even care when that happened the first time. I'm like,
Well, you
it
had
was
no context.
I had no context. I
You're
didn't
like,
even know
oh,
they're
it's just
like
another planet.
I was just like, it's whatever, it's Jeddah. Like, I didn't know anything about it. And so that's why
Oh, girl, we know when you saw your like Jeddah and forgot it 20 seconds later. Like
I forgot. I was just like,
you were not
oh.
in your Star Wars era.
No, I was just like watching it because I needed something. Again, it was during pandemic, and I was
Yeah.
like, oh, I never actually watched any of these, so I should watch it.
Yeah.
And so I watched Rogue One, and again, objectively, I was like, oh, I like this one, I think the best out of all of them, maybe. But like I don't really when I first watched it, I was like, I don't know what any of this means. I don't know what like I've only ever seen the new trilogy and pieces of the
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. So I don't know. It was just really interesting. Um, K2 was funny. I don't know. It was harder to watch, and I was more invested.
Harder to watch because you were invested more.
Yeah, especially when we got closer to the end, and they're like,
You just knew what was happening, and now you're attached to characters who are.
I was like attached to characters that I knew that were gonna die, like even the people who went to go fight. I did, so I will say it was fun to watch the rebellion fighting because like I've heard like red leader and blue leader and gold leader, and I was like watching and I was like, oh my God, the planes are painted the color of the squadron. I didn't even know. That's why they were called that. I was like, oh, that makes so much sense. So much sense. But yeah, no, it's, one of those things.
Now we head out of the land of Andor.
I know. Well, we're going back.
Awesome.
So,
We are rewinding
yes.
back to our chronological order and finishing the Young Jedi adventures.
I know. I am excited. We took a very long break from Young Jedi Adventures.
And then we head into
Clone Wars. Clone Wars. Well, we'll see the movies first, right? Like the first two movies.
That's it?
I think we're supposed because Anakin's still a kid. There's no Clone Wars. I think we see movies one and two first, and then like an episode of like Tales from the Jedi or something. It's very complicated for a little bit before we get
Yeah.
straight like, but I'm very excited to get into Clone Wars. I also think,
We go Young Jedi Adventures. We have 3 episodes of Tales of the Jedi, then the Phantom Menace, and then we hop around
oh,
and then Attack of the Clones.
yeah, that's number two, and
Yeah.
then it's Clone Wars.
Yeah, so we do Phantom Menace, Tales of the Jedi, Forces of Destiny, and that's just 1 episode from each of those. Attack of the Clones, and then we dive into the Clone Wars.
Yeah, so I think it'll be good to take like a little bit of a like heady break by watching Young Jedi.
Yeah.
I am excited to see how the season goes now that they know about Cyrus. So
Oh, I'm excited to see. And we've already recorded some of these episodes, but the next one that we're supposed to watch has the other Pooba in it, and I've been waiting.
I know you've been very patiently waiting
I
for
have
it.
been so patient about waiting on this episode.
Well, you did the meet and greet with Nubs, right? I'm
I
so
met Nubs.
jealous.
I was dressed as Neil when I met Nubs.
Oh my God.
It
From
felt
one blue
appropriate.
character to another.
I thought so.
Yeah, no. Well, until next time, we're not the droids you're looking for.
But we're the droids you're gonna get.